So anyway, just to pick up on that conversation, we were having this talk. It wasn't. We were trying to put a pinpoint on this. It wasn't the last weekend. It was the weekend before. And I made some comment to the effect that this coming week you're going to see a lot of big news coming out about Mosul, and it's going to be a big deal. Whatever that big deal was. I just had the idea that they were. I feel like they've been moving faster than they've been letting on.
Hey, BGG.
Yeah, go ahead.
Somebody on chat said, "Please unlock call." I don't know if that's.
Well, let's see if that works.
Holly says it has.
That is so funny that they wrote that out on the chat. Please unlock call. That's just really sweet. So anyway, what we were talking about here was we were talking about the timeline. We were having this conversation. Anybody thoughts? When was it that I said you're going to see big news?
Week and a half ago?
Was it? I didn't think it was this last weekend. I thought it was the weekend before.
Correct. Yeah, it was the beginning of last week. You said last week we're going to see something big.
And then that was Jay. That was somebody came out on Sunday and was saying that what were they saying about Fox News? Somebody on
Fox News. Yeah, Fox News had a commentator out that was saying it was going to take that Mosul was going to take a year to clear out, and that's when I put my statement that reporter didn't know their ass from a hole in the ground. Because really, it's just if you're just watching the news of what's coming out of Iraq, it's moving along very fast. It's pretty incredible, really.
I'm sure glad you said that word and I didn't. I was having to mentally prep myself for not saying that word at all tonight.
Well, then I did, so I'll be censored then.
There you go. I'm glad. So anyway, what I was saying was a couple weeks ago, there was this, now it's hard to even imagine but 2 weekends ago, not this last weekend, the weekend before, did we have a call? What did we do? Did we do a call on Sunday?
I think it was Tuesday.
It was something. Anyway, there was some conversation. I said it was 2 weekends ago, and I said this coming week you're going to see big movement on Mosul, and I said it's not going to. I said it's not going to take a year, and I said something along the lines. I thought it would be. It would surprise me if it took a month. It really.
I thought it was Sunday chat when you said it.
Because
it was. Yeah, it was Sunday chat news because it was prior to the week starting when you said it.
Right. That makes sense. And that was what I was talking about. And my point was, this Fox commentator talking about Mosul taking taking a year, and there's no way. And not only that, I'm just saying, based on, if you look at all the comments in the news and the attitudes of the commenters in context. For instance, Abadi, Alak, the IMF, the World Bank, there's just not that ISIS being in Iraq for the next year is not in the cards. It's not going to happen. And the force multipliers around ISIS are just so great. We're going to get to a lot of stuff on this call, but we were just having this very candid conversation about what our timeline of conversation was the last few days. I wanted to make sure everybody got a chance to listen to that. So,
okay, I'm getting emails again saying that the call is locked.
Yeah, it's open. It's. I want to go double check. No, it's open. It's recording. It's live. It's unlocked. Kicks me off and says locked. Okay. It's okay now. Anybody, you know what? That would be why I was wondering why in the world we had no numbers, and then all of a sudden the numbers are jumping up. Sorry about that, folks. That was my bad. Technical difficulty with BGG tonight. I left it locked, and it kicked everybody off. My bad. It's fixed, though, now. Okay, so we got past that conversation, and it was 2 weekends ago. I said Mosul was coming. It's going to be a big deal. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Relax. And, we're going to talk about this some tonight. There's just so much. The breadth and depth and length of the news right now is just, it's crazy. There's no way we can't cover it all. And it's all really, really good for anybody that's invested in this particular economy. But to finalize this, I would say that my take on the whole Mosul thing is that the noose is tightening rapidly. Any of the maps, if anybody watches, they change daily, and it gets tougher and tougher and tougher on those guys in the middle. So they're in deep trouble, and they're going to get what they deserve really soon. You know what? Let me take this step backwards. I told the guys that I was going to do this, and I was going to take a quick step back. I want to make sure I thank all the people on dinarupdates.com to make it the website that it is. Thank you, guys. We couldn't do it without all of you participating, every last one. And, even the people, on the sidelines, jump in there. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. The websites that advertise for us, Dinar Recaps, IQD Calls, Dinar Detectives, anybody that's mentioned us or forwarded the email, thank you. If you want to follow us on Twitter at Dinar Updates. That's the real Dinar Updates. You see me tweet pretty regular. And for everybody that tuned in, thank you so much. Private Facebook group, there's links everywhere. You can join that private Facebook group. The news is fast and furious. The forum has current Iraq news all day long, every day. And we've got the chat room. We just got it every which direction you can think of. So Dinar Updates is the source. Everybody else comes here for their news. Thanks so much. And the truth of the matter is, you guys are the ones that make it happen. There is not any one single person that does this. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Who did I miss? I always miss somebody. There's something I'm going to miss. All of our chat copiers, the people that help out, the backbone of this thing, it's you. The people that tune in, the people that make it happen. We couldn't do it without you. It's you guys' operation. Thanks. Okay, moving on. First big article of the day. I'm going to go to the blog. I'm going to see if I left it on here. I might not have. Big news piece. I did. It's at the bottom. And it's a long article. I wanted to hit this article before we got onto some other stuff because there's some other stuff that needs handled also. Some people that just will not get off whatever their personal opinion is because they're convinced that they're right and everybody else is wrong. This article, the title of the article is The Adoption of Specialized International Companies for the Rehabilitation of Local Expertise. You know where I'm going with this, don't you, Luke?
Yes.
This article flew clear under the radar. Nobody even picked it up. They didn't even know what it meant. It is a monster article. It quotes Mohammed Saleh, who's the number 2 to Abadi, over and over and over. Apparently he carries the same weight as Abadi in the financial realm. And this deals with the ACAMs. It talks about Microsoft, talks about KPMG. It talks about all of the how they're going to teach their people to do the things that they need to do. Huge article. And what their point is, this is they're bringing in a lot of outside help to rehabilitate Iraq's digital self in kind of its purest form. Am I getting that right, Luke?
Yeah, they are. I mean, really, it seems like what they're really targeting also is the youth, the people coming out of the colleges and in college still. They're training them to be competent in the different sectors. Banking sector is really one of the big ones they're focusing on with the ICAMs, which is the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists. And we already know that 38 people went through that training last week, and that was a train the trainer course is what they had. So they're 38 trainers that are qualified to train this now. So they're working really hard to get people up to speed with where they're going with technology because their infrastructure is being totally revamped. So they're going to need people that are going to be competent in doing that, and that's probably, that human intelligence is probably going to be one of their biggest areas of concentration to succeed in these economic directions that they're going to, that they've stated that they're going.
Nice follow-up. Appreciate that. And that's exactly. I wanted to hit that article because it's on the blog. It's at the bottom. I've left it there a couple of days. I totally whiffed on our last news time because I pointed this article out and then I don't know what happened. I just had brain fade for a second. I just didn't comment on it, but it was really, really important because it highlights where they intend to go with their financial system. They need this kind of legal expertise in rooting out corruption long term in their financial system before they're going to be, before they're going to get true international acceptance. And they're almost laying foundations 2 and 3 under the first foundation. So fantastic news. It's really good stuff. Okay, what's our second article of the day?
I would actually venture to say it was the central bank, the new currency sales system to reduce the dollar exchange rate. I mean, that one was basically, we've seen articles last week that were actually talking about how the exchange rate of the dollar has fallen. And here you have the CBI coming up with a statement saying, yeah, we did that. We're the cause of that. And they explained why, that they have a new system in place, and they've removed the middlemen and the hackers, right? So they removed people that were interloping, that were actually taking advantage of the system. And how do they do that? By making the system more by simplifying the system and making it more transparent. So they took out the avenues, the complexities, the obstacles that were being used to be able to manipulate the system, and then they made it transparent. So they're seeing who is doing what at this point. End to end, they're actually able to see that. And of course, why are they doing it? To combat the money laundering and anti-terrorism, which is just really huge. And then there's that other statement that comes through here that basically talking about the progress that they've made, and that it's going to that with the improving oil prices and the elimination of Daesh, it's only going to support the country's financial situation, and that will relieve the pressure on the monetary policy, and it will allow them the opportunity to achieve greater stability in the country. So these moves that they've made, and with Daesh being eliminated and the improvements they've made, it's actually adding to the stability, the monetary stability to the country.
What was the number one? For like two ingredients that Shabibi really wanted before he was going to do anything with the currency. What were they? What was one of them?
Security and stability.
Financial stability. You nailed it right on the head. Yeah.
Yeah, and they linked it right back to Daesh, saying that with Daesh being eliminated, the elimination of Daesh terrorism, significant impact in supporting the country's financial situation. I mean, huge statement there. I mean, that really is, that's saying that what we've been surmising now for well over a month and a half, that Mosul definitely is linked to this reform, and that the IMF is holding them accountable, and this kind of shows that. And then here they're coming out saying that we have greater monetary stability. I mean, just massive. It put a big smile on my face this morning when I read this one.
Mm-hmm. That was what you were talking about. That's some of your early comments this morning, wasn't it?
Yeah. It just to me, it's doing everything that they need it to be done, right? Because a system that's simple to follow is much easier much harder for anybody to compromise. And, having that transparency that they've been put in place, that auditing that the new system gives them, is just going to make it easier. And I mean, we're seeing now that, that the dollar exchange rate is really tightening up right now. And it's all very positive. It means that they've put some controls in place that are truly working for them.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of conversation about Chapter 8, this 2% spread. I'm going to tell you right here and right now, Iraq and the IMF and the World Bank, they are not going to ask any one of our opinions on this thing. So the people out there that are convinced that they're right, it doesn't matter if you're right or not. These world powers are going to do what they decide they want to do, whether you like it or not. And it's not impossible that they wait for Iraq to control their spread to 2% for 90 days, but it's also it is far and away more possible that they do exactly what they want, exactly when they want, and they're not going to ask our permission.
No, all they really need is they need the world to be able to accept whatever rate that they come out with.
Hey guys, I can only
is moving that direction right there. As soon as the world is happy and is going to accept their rate, this is going to happen.
Hey, first of all, I can only bite my tongue so long. The 2%, the 2% theory, best practice, however you want it described, from the self-proclaimed experts on this, apply to currencies that have value, accepted
Speaking of
value.
Which, we need to go in a different direction with this thing entirely. We need to scratch this whole thing because you hit it on the head. You start the currencies that are already, but listen, none of that even matters. You had a different conversation that we need to hear about, and you're next.
Okay, all righty.
Because it ties in perfectly. I mean, rather than go down
it does.
the road, you just staked it in the heart. That only matters if there's intrinsic value. Tell us what you heard. Let's talk about this.
Okay, I reached out. I reached out to some people with a rather prominent investment interest in Iraq, and I was able to get the email address for a gentleman that's in Baghdad, and I reached out. In fact, it was this morning, and I asked him to clarify some stuff about pegs, because we have a paradigm, we have a certain belief system in this investment, because certain people say we know, and we just sort of accept it. And I've always wondered, how do we know? Because I've never seen anything from the CBI. I've seen some stuff from the IMF talking about a peg. But I figure these people that are engaged in hundreds of millions of dollars investment contracts within Iraq on a daily basis would know something about this. Would probably know something more than our self-proclaimed gurus. And I shot this email out this morning, a couple of them, to a couple different individuals with this firm, and I was surprised. About 40 minutes later, I got a response. And I'm not going to read you the whole response, but I am going to read you a part of a couple of the sentences. And it says that Iraq has a de facto peg, de facto dollar peg. And when I got this thing, I was still drinking coffee out on the porch, and I asked my wife, what is de facto? In fact, I asked Jay later. I said, Jay, what's de facto? Well, yeah. I've heard it, but gee, let's see just really what it is. And there's many different definitions, but basically, it's non-official. Those of you that are listening, let's say you're at work, and you want to put together a football tournament, and there's 3 or 4 of you. It'd be a great thing to do. Let's form a committee. Yeah, the 4 of us. Well, we'll be the committee. We'll put this thing together. You are a de facto committee. But something that is legally put into place is not de facto, because then it's legal. Okay? So this gentleman confirmed to us that, yeah, there's a peg, but it's a de facto peg. It's for convenience. Because remember, Iraq is operating in a bubble. The bubble is Iraq. And they needed some way to have a value so they could, within the country, buy and sell stuff. But they can't buy and sell stuff outside, so they needed to use a currency that's accepted worldwide. They could have gone with the euro. They could have gone with the Great British Pound. They could have gone with the yen, but they went with the U.S. dollar because that has more access anywhere else. They chose to tie itself to have some type of value, not a real value, but some type of value to the dollar. And therefore, you have a de facto peg. Right after that, there's a period at the end of peg, and this gentleman says, however. And what does that word mean? Forget about what I just told you, because I'm going to tell you something more important. However, I told you I have a de facto peg. However, and he says, now I'm quoting him, however, comma, Iraq does not have an official peg. Boom.
Wow.
Boom. Hello, world. Do you hear this? Do you hear this, folks? However, Iraq does not have an official peg. And now what all of you ought to be doing right now is asking yourself, why not?
Well, that kind of makes sense, Mr. White, now that you say that. I mean, because if they had an official imposed rate, right, so the IMF came in and said that this is your rate, then in 2003, when it was at 4,000 dinars to a dollar, and it slowly moved up from there, that they have to go to the IMF every time they raise that rate. I don't recall them ever coming out with any statements that the IMF has allowed us to change this rate.
Of course not, because it's not real anyway. That
makes total
1182, 1184, whatever it might be today, is an agreement between the CBI and the GOI. It has to do with petrodollars and selling dollars to the CBI selling dinar back to the GOI. That's all what that's about. It's de facto. It's unofficial because they haven't gone to the world and say, hello, world, you going to do business with us? This is our official value based on a basket of currencies or a peg to the dollar or to the yen or whatever. The reason they don't have an official because they haven't told the world what the true value is. That alone tells you if 1186 or 1184, 1182, whatever that thing is not real, who in the heck would start a float at an unreal value? It shoots it right out of the water. That's why when you read these economists, they come out and they say, you know what? They're going to move ahead with increasing the value, and they actually tell you to 1/100th of a dinar what it is, 1.12. That is a physical action on their part. It isn't any of this float stuff, people. You can't convince me of it. This right today, that email is monumental. There's no official peg because there's no official value that the CBI is telling the world what it is as of today. Go ahead, somebody else.
That ties.
Go ahead.
Well, that really ties in what I was saying before. Really, I mean, it's all going to go to what they're going to be reaching out to the different countries of the world and get acceptance for whatever rate the CBI, whatever they're coming up with. And we know that from the SIGAR report, at one point we know that the United States was in some kind of an agreement with the amount of money that they were talking about, and that was just under $1 is what they're saying. And in recent articles, we saw that one economist theorized that it was 1.2, right? So I think that what they'll have to go, they're going to have to come out with a rate that is going to be in agreement with what the world is willing to accept, and one that they can defend economically. So they're going to have to say, this is what our reserves are. So this is what our natural resource value is as a country. This is where our current our GDP is sitting at right now, and this is our reserves, and this is what we feel our value of our currency is because of these things that we've just showed you. And then I think once they get to an agreement, they can go forward with this thing.
Yeah, and just real quick, going back, some of these people, there was a certain visitor to the chat room today saying that here is just to tell you guys that there's never going to be an overnight revaluation. Or even in the de facto peg realm, overnight, whenever the CBI changed its unofficial value, because remember, it started off around 4,000 10, 11, 12 years ago, when they changed it to 3,000 and something, and when they eventually got it to where it is today, that was overnight. So don't accept this stuff when somebody comes in the room and says, hey, that ain't going to happen overnight. Well, when they change it, who's going to do it? The Easter Bunny? Huh?
Well, when they imposed the sanctions, it was overnight.
Yeah. I mean, come on. It ain't going to happen overnight. Okay, it's going to happen at lunchtime the way the Swiss did it. Well, it was a boogeyman that did depeg the Swiss franc?
Yeah.
So, but getting back to this thing about this 2% requirement, that applies to countries with currency value. Iraq has no currency value, as these investors, this investment firm just told us today. What they have is a de facto value, a temporary, unofficial. Anyway, I think I'm talking myself blue here. I'm talking into this phone. His phone's not saying nothing back to me. Anybody else got any opinions?
We're all listening with bated breath. That's the problem.
Yes. And it just keeps getting better, doesn't it? Because this is just another big piece in that puzzle. I mean, like, wow. Things start making sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Pat, are you out there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. What's your biggest article for the day?
You know, I hate to say it, I was so busy today, I didn't get to look at much of anything, so I've just been listening to y'all's take on stuff, and I surely do like that information that Mr. White got, because, you know, it lays a lot of things to rest that, you know, when people start clamoring for, you know, well, I thought this, I thought that, well, you know, don't think it's so hard.
Right. Right. You know, let's stretch it. Let's move the ends of the timeline out a little bit here. What's your biggest news for the last 72 hours, last couple of days?
You're still talking to me, right? Yeah, bear with me.
Gut reaction. First thing that comes to your mind. That's the best way to do it.
Gotcha. You know, there's a lot of good banking stuff. You know, the Rafidane trying to get customers in, you know, by offering them the 1,200 to 1 rate. You know, to me that's good. I mean, if they can, you know, if they can offer that, that must mean that they're not, to them, taking a hit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if it's supposedly yesterday the rate was 12.51, and I don't know from today if that's still holding, but you know they're moving in the right direction, and that's the amazing thing and the great takeaway from all this.
Well, and I would agree in a general sense, and I say general because the news is, like I said, the news is so broad-based, so deep, so much breadth, so long. It's crazy. We can never touch on every single news article, but I would say there's a lot of banking information out there. They are moving this economic and potentially currency reform very, very, they're moving it forward as fast as possible. And I do believe that there's two separate sides, but you hit an important point. I appreciate it, Pat. AB Newsflash, are you out there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How are you, Andrew?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Okay. What's the biggest piece of news you've seen in the last 12 hours? Now let's give you more than that. Let's give you 48 hours. Last 2 days. Big piece of news.
Well, I think today was a good day with security forces. You know, whoever is part of Daesh, if you're in Mosul, your last chance to get out is done. You know, last road
to comes
Syria
out and you need to dress up like a lady and take off running.
Yeah, that's pretty sad.
Listen. If you were in the United States Marine Corps and General Mattis come out and said, "Boys, it's over. You need to dress up like women and take off running." You know things.
Say what?
You.
And
I'll tell you what.
The other day was the annual
U.S. Marines would not do that. They would say, screw that. We're dropping our stakes. This is where we stand, boys.
You know, another good piece of news is you're talking about the two things that Shabibi was talking about was security and stability, and he also was bringing up the inflation. And
that's exactly. I, in a general sense, my take on Shabibi was overall security and inflation. That is correct.
Yeah. Right. And well, we've seen that yesterday there was a report to come out with the annual inflation index rate dropped down to 0.9%. So that's good stuff right there, that they're everything's working, the banking reforms, and just a lot of good stuff with the banking. You know, with the one article talking about that Luke brought out today about the advance or the salaries are going to be all electronic, and it's all going to be up to international standards. It's just like, wow, their bank's going to be up to international standards, really.
Well, and the salaries being all electronic, there's some very practical reasons for that during this transition that they're going to do that. I mean, there's a very real reason they need to do that. It saves them so much money to go that direction. So, but your catch on the inflation is so practical. It's one of the two biggies. From going back to Mr. White, you know the date on this. When was Shabibi's speech to the Rotary Club in Washington, D.C.? Was it April of 20? I know you know this date by.
Yeah. 12. No, it was 11 or 12, but it was the spring.
Right, that would be the right era because that's around when the Figure report was. Later than his speech was delivered to the Congress. So that actually makes 2011, 2012 perfect sense because that would have been about the right. I didn't think it was that was the date, but I knew you would know. And that makes sense that it was in that era. And those were the things that he talked about. So nice catch, Andrew. Nice catch, William. Appreciate it. Back to Jay. We were talking about earlier, we were going to talk about this Mosul thing and where it's going and what Baghdadi making public his conversation about what is admitting defeat, basically.
Well, it seems like there was one that came out of the Daily Mail from Britain today that said that that it is an unverified source. So, but just the fact that at this point I have 8 different news outlets that have picked up and ran with the story. 2 of them are from the Kurdish press side. There was Bash News, and then there was Rudaw. There was one Iranian paper, and then you had the Britain paper, and then 4 other papers or media outlets from Iraq that came out with that, and they're all basically saying the same thing. The one from Rudaw had a little variation on it, basically admitting defeat in that they're going to go to a lone wolf strategy. So I get from that they're talking about trying to, going the way of Al-Qaeda, they'll exist and blow things up and cause issues around, but they're not going to try to hold an armed area. They're not going to try to occupy an area anymore, is what I got from that one. So whether that's true or not, it's still pretty huge in the fact of what it's actually signaling to the world at this point. And then there's so many other articles that are out about, Daesh surrendering, about, successful air sorties that are taking out, groups of leaders at once. I think there was one out that was six or seven leaders were taken out in one airstrike today. And then there's that one that you posted up on the news blog yesterday with that guy who surrendered, and I mean the look on his face pretty much says everything, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's why I put that up. In fact, I made the comment privately when we were kind of doing our prep call earlier. Is I don't even care for sure if this Baghdadi report is actually accurate or it's just disinformation. He may be putting this out so that the Allied forces, kind of, 9 chances out of there's a certain possibility that Baghdadi's saying these things so that he kind of throws the Allies off his scent where he's actually at. That's the kind of coward he is. He's throwing everybody to the wolves just so he gets a little relief. But the truth of the matter is, it's 6 one way, 1/2 dozen the other. It doesn't matter. And I would tend to believe the broad base of news reporting in the articles. I would tend to think, based on what we've seen, this is probably a very real. It's more than likely accurate because there's just so many. There's 3 or 4 legit news sources, and then just slews of other news sources picking this up. I would tend to believe that he's probably that's what he's been saying. That's what he said. So, and that's bad news for them. And I think I will tell you this. Okay, I will say based on this collapsing security profile, the way they're surrounded on every side. I just sent out a tweet on Dinar updates. Let me read this tweet to you because this headline is just powerful. Just a second. Iraqi forces cut off ISIL's last escape route out of Mosul. I told everybody about a little over 7 days ago they're dropping the hammer on these guys, and you're about to ready to see a turkey shoot. That is exactly what's shaping up right now. And I am believing that whatever timeline I was imagining 7 to 10 days ago is truncated greatly. I think they're on a fast track to getting this thing handled. The reason that's so important to this investment because Iraq holding their sovereign territory, getting Daesh neutralized within their own borders, appears to be some kind of a benchmark for the world accepting their currency as legitimate. It appears to me, just on the surface. Could be wrong, and I'm presenting that as an opinion. But there is an extraordinary amount of circumstantial evidence to bolster my comment there. So, anybody else have a comment on top of that comment? Be glad to hear it.
It's hard to say all of this is coincidental. It's hard to go there. There's just too much. 1 or 2 things, maybe 3 things coincidental, but going back for so many months at all points, forecasting certain entities, making forecasts on the financial side, believing certain physical things could be taking place. It's just not coincidental. It's something about this particular time of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. What am I leaving out here, guys? I'm sure I'm leaving something out.
Well, I think one of the reasons why the IMF or the world would want to see Iraq do this as a condition of them becoming basically a sovereign nation, or a world accepted sovereign nation, is that they're taking care of their own house. They're cleaning it up. You know, Maliki allowed Daesh to come in and cause this calamity that befell them, and you know they're handling it. I mean, they have assistance from the international coalition and stuff, but they're doing this on their own. They're standing on their own 2 feet. So that I think signals to the world that they will be able to survive as a nation.
Well, I look at it like this, Luke. They are taking care of their own. They are doing their part of becoming more internationally recognized with their practices, as well as with what we do. But I look at it like this: that they're taking care of Daesh for the entire. I mean, other than like our forces and the British forces and other countries' forces that are involved in defeating ISIS out of the country. But you look at these articles. A lot of body talks about that. They're doing this on behalf of the world, that they are fighting for the world, because, Daesh is worldwide, and the big major part of them is in Iraq, and they're taking care of it for the world. So I can see that could be an allowance to, if they clean up the mess and take out the trash, that they'll be allowed back into the international community.
It's a good point, because really, if they didn't take care of it, let's say that this is my opinion only, but if America was to have gone in there and taken the situation in their hand and came in there with troops and taken care of, I think that as soon as we left, whenever that would be, that we'd see this kind of scenario erupt again in that region. I think with Iraq cleaning their own house, it's sending a very powerful message. Now, if they can get the national reconciliation moving and going in the right direction, they should be able. We probably won't see this kind of an issue coming out of that region of the world anymore, if people are being taken care of. So,
excellent point. That them doing it on their own, or at least having a major role in it, means it's gonna maintain for some time to come.
Yeah, look at Germany and Korea.
Yeah. Okay. Having said all that, are we good tonight, guys?
Yeah, I think so.
The synopsis for this evening's call: stunning news, huge news, broad-based, deep. It just goes and goes and goes and goes all day long, every day, and it's really good stuff. So stay tuned to Dinar Updates for more Dinar news, Dinar info, and Dinar commentary. We will bring it to you as we're able on the forum, on the blog, on the Observer, on the private Facebook group. What else am I missing here? Where else? In the emails, make sure you're on the juice list, because, there ain't no telling when we're going to need that. So make sure you get on that list. Everybody, have a great night, and we appreciate you for tuning